1, 2, 3, 4.
You heard the rest. Now here's the best. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast.
And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here, kicking off our last show of the week, our episode. Shoulder's going to be here today. He had work, so our scheduling conflict happened a little bit this week, but I'm here. A little bit to talk about. We got some NFL talk, update on the CBA. Dak Prescott thinks he's should be paid the highest quarterback in the league. We'll get into that. As well as some video game news, which I'm actually kind of excited about. But before we get into the show, head over to Twitter. Follow us there at ST Sports Podcast, as well as our Facebook page. Like and share that. And head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel there. Also, head over to staytunesports.net. If all of our episodes end up there. Plus, we have a tab to click merchandise. I just got in my Deontay Wilder shirt that we posted, I believe it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, making fun of him with his excuses. We also have some other shirts there that you could purchase. But also on the right hand side, when you scroll down a little bit, right below where you could follow us and listen to us and all that, we have the Fanatics banner there. Click that to take you over to their website to buy any of the collectibles or jerseys or anything that you may want to purchase. So like I said, I want to start off with a story that we actually brought up probably about 3-4 weeks ago about the 2 Ohio State football players that were charged with kidnapping and rape of a 19-year-old woman. Kind of give you the backstory of what happened. Amir Ripe and Jason Wint were charged with kidnapping and rape of the 19-year-old woman. She was hanging out with Ripe, and they began to have consensual sex. At some point during that time, she decided she didn't want no more, and she told Ripe that to stop. Doesn't want no more. He did not stop, according to the complaint. After a while of it continuing going on, Jason Wint actually came into the room and actually asked if he could join in. Joined in, forced her to do other stuff, and even start laughing at her and told her, look at the camera and make sure you say this was consensual. Now, when we talked about this incident a couple weeks ago on the show, at that time, I don't believe they were charged just yet. There were allegations, and I said I was worried that, not saying she was lying, but I was worried that this may be one of those, she may have been dating him, he broke it off, this is her way of getting back. But as more of this story comes out, it's starting to sound more and more like these guys were just total a-holes. And I'm starting to believe her. One part of the story that has changed is the Ohio State Buckeyes head coach Ryan Day dismissed Ripe and Wint from the team a day after their arrest. Now, granted, they are still enrolled in college, but they will no longer play football, at least for this season, for the Buckeyes. And again, at the time when we were talking about that, we weren't too sure, and this doesn't really matter, shouldn't matter, but we didn't know if they were starters, how far down the depth chart they were. Ripe actually was going to compete for one of the starting cornerback jobs. So, I mean, he obviously has talent, and he just pretty much washed it away. I just don't understand. I mean, I understand these kids, they're kids, but when a girl says no, stop, it means stop. So, and you're not playing for some, small school. You're playing for a big college that a lot of players come out of there and go to the NFL. Now, if you're competing for a starting job, that means you have talent. And you just flushed it all away. These guys are looking at, I think I saw it was either 23 or 33 years in prison if found guilty, which the facts that keep coming out, it all points to it. It all points to them being guilty. And unfortunately, for the woman, she unfortunately has to live with this the rest of her life with this incident. I just hope these scumbags get what they deserve in prison for treating this woman that way. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that topic because they're just scumbags for doing that. But moving on, some CBA news update. So last time we talked last week about this, the player reps didn't like the agreement that was on the table, the proposal that was on the table, but some of the league players were okay with it, wanted to vote for this and that, the other thing. During the week, this past week, it came out that some players in the union wanted a copy of the 2011 CBA policy to compare it to this deal and see what has gotten better, what has gotten worse. Well, before those players asked for, some players already voted to allow this proposal to go through. Once the players asked for the 2011 proposal to compare it to, they asked if they could change their vote. Well, on Monday, the player representatives decided to vote against letting players change their votes. The union did vote, though, to extend the voting window 48 hours to allow more time for the players to consider and vote on the proposal. As of now, the deadline is 11:59 Eastern Time, Saturday. Once again, it just seems like these players are not all on the same page. If you're a union, you should be in unison, whether you are okay with this proposal or against it. There just seems to be like a lot of miscommunication among players and the reps. Not a lot of. It seems like it's very uncoordinated. To the players that are voting no and the reasons they give are because of the health and wellness, and they're opposed against the 17-game schedule. They would also like to negotiate more benefits. The players that are okay with it, that are voting yes, are because the owners are going to increase the minimum salaries. They're doing away with suspending players for testing positive for marijuana. The roster spots are going to increase. Some of the practice squad players will get a bump in pay. Less hitting in training camp. There seems like to be more benefits as far as salaries, some of the drug policies. I still think the owners hold all the cards here. If the players were smart, I think they should do this, especially with the whole revenue thing. Right now, if they all vote yes for this deal, they will start off at a 48% revenue share. With these new TV deals that the owners are going to negotiate, obviously are going to be record-breaking deals because of the last time that the owners negotiated. So they're going to get a piece of that. You add in the 17 game, that's roughly about, I think I saw something like $2.5 million more dollars just for that 1 week. I understand that some of these players are against the 17 game schedule, but if the owners are asking for the 17 game schedule and the players are against it because of the physicality of the sport, the owners are giving up some of the less hitting in training camp. I'm pretty sure less OTA, so it's the NFL players aren't training and practicing 9-10 months a year. Maybe they got the OTAs that are voluntary, then they have the mandatory OTAs. Maybe they'll do away with the voluntary OTAs. That right there is 4 or 5 days of practice. And also, about 2-3 weeks ago, I brought up about how half the league, maybe a little bit more than half the league, is made up of minimum or pretty close to minimum salary players. If they're getting a bump from $510,000 to say $750,000, and that's going to go up every year, say even 10%, within 2-3 years, you're going to be making $1 million as a minimum salary player. I think it would be just smart for them, the health benefits as far as players that are out of the league, they get covered for, as right now with the policy that's in place now, they get covered for 5 years, up to 5 years out of league. They were hoping for 10 to 15. Not sure if the owners put that in their deal or if they would even go for that. But kind of get back to the 17 game thing. Another thing that came out this past week, or a source came out, was some of the owners are hoping that the players vote this down because they want to change the proposal to add an 18th game. And again, like I said, I think the owners have all the cards here, because let's say the players say, nope, we're not going to play it, we're not going to show up. You got the XFL playing right now. Whether viewership's going up or down, that don't matter. There's players that want to play in the NFL, and that's why they're playing in the XFL. They may have not gotten the chance to get on the field like a PJ Walker to put some tape together for other teams to see. Shit, I wouldn't mind if Philly picked him up as a backup. Stop with this Nick Foles coming back to Philly shit. PJ Walker, the way he plays, the way he runs that offense, I think he'd be a really good backup. He'd be cheap because he's not going to be asking for $2-3 million a year. Bring him in on the minimum salary of $600,000, $750,000. But if these players don't vote on this, NFL could take some of the players from the XFL. Granted, product won't be as good as we're used to, but they still have football every Sunday and Monday. So I really think the players should consider this. And it's not just like the couple of names I saw that are voting for yes for the proposal. Ryan Fitzpatrick. But we also saw some big names voting no, like Richard Sherman, Maurice Pouncey, Aaron Rodgers. But players like, say, for example, since I'm an Eagles fan, Boston Scott, even Miles Sanders, he's not making millions and millions. He's probably making, a couple million, but those are the guys that are going to be playing on the steal. Not Aaron Rodgers. He's probably got 4 or 5 years left. Richard Sherman, like all the guys that are against it are a little bit older. But yet, so like these rookies coming in now should really consider playing on this. At least in my opinion. Another player that will be actually playing underneath this CBA is Mr. Dak Prescott. And before we get into him, we're actually going to take a quick little break here. So stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. Hey, what's up, Stay Tuners? It's your good friend Jimbo here to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Podcorn, a website that helps podcasters find podcast sponsorship opportunities. I found it very easy to set up an account with them. Then all I had to do was find sponsors I wanted to work with. Next, I had to set my fee and where to put their ad in this episode and send the proposal over. That easy. Literally only took me a few minutes to do. You don't give up any rights to your show, and Podcorn will be there to help you every step of the way. So click the link in our show notes and head over to podcorn.com right now and sign up today and start earning. And welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. You kind of had a brain fart there. I didn't know how I wanted to come back into this one, but so before I left, brought up about Dak Prescott playing underneath this possible new CBA that's coming out, and I'll tell you what, man, I think he needs to get his head checked because sources came out this past week that the Cowboys offered him a $33 million per season with $100 million guaranteed. I believe it would have been the highest guaranteed for the quarterback. 10 years. Basically would have been higher than Carson Wentz, which, the debate is always who's better, Carson Wentz or Dak. But also, it would have been higher than Jared Goff and Aaron Rodgers. Then he turned around and declined it and came out with it was 4 years, $40 million a year. So basically he wants to get paid higher than Russell Wilson, who is getting paid $35 right now, Ben Roethlisberger at $34 million, Aaron Rodgers, and Jared Goff. He must have the ABCTE because out of all those quarterbacks I just mentioned now, the only one that I would take him over is Jared Goff, maybe Big Ben. Ben, he still produces, but he's definitely at the wrong end of his career now. Jared Goff only had one good year, I believe, and that's when he signed his contract. Aaron Rodgers, I'll take Aaron Rodgers over Prescott every time. Russell Wilson, every time. And he wants this $40 million when he hasn't done anything in the playoffs. Now, I'm talking about Prescott, so all you Cowboys fans, calm down. Don't come at me, well, you guys gave Carson Wentz this. He hasn't done anything in the playoffs. I ain't talking about Carson. Now, I'm not saying Dak Prescott is a bottom 20 quarterback. I mean, he's definitely a top 10 guy as far as playing. But, yes, last season he had a good season. He had 4,900 passing yards. He had 30 passing touchdowns. He's been to 2 Pro Bowls twice. But you couldn't win any playoff games with Ezekiel Elliott, Dez Bryant, Amari Cooper they traded for. They traded a first-round pick for him and couldn't really do anything. Last year, you played shitty with the shit teams. Or, I'm sorry, you played good with the shit teams, but you never stepped it up when it was time for you to play the big games. They had their destiny in control to make the playoffs, and they collapse. That's not a quarterback you want to pay $40 million to. Now, here's what he's gambling with. He turned down the $33 million per season. A source from the Cowboys said they're leaning towards using the exclusive franchise tag, which is around 33 to 34 million, and no team could sign him or give him an offer. But there's also the other tag that is only 27 or 28 million dollars for the year, and another team could offer him a contract that he could sign. And if the Cowboys don't match it, they'll get 2 first-round draft picks. He may be looking at a $6 million gamble. Because if let's just say the Cowboys put that $27 million price tag on him, and they come in and offer him 29, what's he going to do? Sit out the whole season and not get anything? I just think if he was smart, he should have took that $33 million a year. 100 guaranteed. That's the thing. That's the thing that blows my mind. $100 million guaranteed, which means he's not going anywhere from that team. He could stink it up the next 5 years, and the Cowboys are stuck with him unless he restructures his contract, which I don't believe he will do. As an Eagles fan, I am praying Jerry Jones can convince Dak to sign this deal. And to take a step further, though, I'm praying that Dak Prescott can convince Jerry Jones to pay him $40 million, because you ain't going to be able to afford Dak, Ezekiel, and Cooper all at the same time. You're already going to lose Byron Jones, which I'm hoping Philly don't sign him. He's looking for 17 to 18 million a year. Amari Cooper, they're just starting talks with him for an extension, which you only have a week until free agency starts. And this coming Monday, is the deadline for teams to apply franchise tags. Now, if the players don't agree to the CBA deal, teams can use the franchise tag and transition tag at the same time. So they technically could franchise Prescott and then transition tag Amari Cooper. But I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that they'll handcuff themselves so bad with the salary cap if they do that. Dak is a good player. If I'm going to put myself as a football fan right now, not an Eagles fan, Dak is a good player. He's not great. I don't even think he's shown signs of greatness. of like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. He wants top 5 money, and I just don't think he's worth it. Now, a player that is worth his money, and man, I think Dak needs this guy's agent. Christian Yelich signed a 9-year, $215 million deal, and it calls for deferred money in it. Here's the funny part. The deferred money will be paid until 2042. He will be 50 years old by the time the last payment is done. $4 million each year from 2022 to 2028. The deal includes a $20 million mutual option for 2029 with a $6.5 million buyout. But the $2 million of that buyout would be deferred. He, to me, is a new Bobby Bonilla. Every year since, 1990-something, Bobby Bonilla makes $1 million a year because of the deferred money. And we're starting to see more teams do this and do this and do this. You better be right about this talent. I mean, granted, yeah, he past 2 years has been a very good ball player. I believe he won the MVP last year, a couple Slugger awards. So, I mean, it definitely does look like the money is going to be right here. And he also has a no-trade clause in there without his consent. Which, kudos to him, because, I mean, to me, that shows that he wants to be a Milwaukee Brewer for the rest of his well, at least this contract. Maybe his whole career. But it's just insane. Like, what's the point of having a salary cap? I know they have the luxury tax part of it, but if you could do this, you'll never go over the luxury tax, I would assume. Baltimore Orioles with Chris Davis a couple years ago. I believe he still has 8 or 9 more years of deferred money, and he only has maybe 1 or 2 more years left on the contract he signed a few years back. The one player I'm surprised that didn't get deferred money was Bryce Harper. I mean, that big of a contract with their pitching woes, you would have thought try to save a little bit of salary cap space by doing that for a player like Bryce Harper. You already know what you're getting from him, and to sign him for that long, why not? Why not do a deferred money? So, before I came on to record, it came out that the NCAA has said they are not going to have any fans in the stands during any college basketball tournaments, and because of the coronavirus that is spreading across the globe. We're seeing that in NBA. The media has been closed off from NHL locker rooms, NBA locker rooms. I think the Major League Baseball also joined in with that, and part of me, I understand why they're doing it, but I think some of these sports need to pump the brakes a little bit, because I think we're overreacting just a little bit. Yes, we gotta worry about it, but as long as we take the precautions that have been told out there, and everybody does it, we'll be able to beat this virus. Now, as far as the March Madness tournament and all the other things, there is still ongoing talk that they may either postpone March Madness or cancel it. I don't see that ever happening. There's just way too much money to lose for NCAA. But I'm curious to see how this is going to affect the smaller schools, which fans really get behind them when they're upsetting these major schools who lose out on money. You know, if you have a small school, and let's be honest, you know, you get some of these small schools that get these upsets. It helps their recruiting too. Now, they did say it's very limited families going to be able to be at the arenas, and important associates of the schools on top of the players and coaches. I know, kind of going back to NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles have brought their coaches back to Pennsylvania from any type of pro days or whatnot. They're really clamping down on the traveling. And even, I think, the kind of leewaying into XFL, the Seattle Dragons have posted their refund policy, so I even think they're starting to say, you know, we're not going to have any fans in the stands, this and that, the other thing. But I just pray that everybody stays safe out there. Just do all the precautions that they've announced on the news from the CDC, and, you know, we will get through this. So before I go, I want to bring up some XFL stuff, you know, give my game of the week this week. But XFL is starting to mess up a little bit here. So I don't know if you guys seen the Seattle game last week. Who do they play? Oh, they play Houston. And so Houston, you know, obviously they won. They were 11-point favorite, though. This was the thing. They were 11-point favorite. They won by 9 points. But the drama happened the last 5 seconds of the game. They were on Seattle's 20-yard line. So basically, if Seattle got the ball, they had 20 yards to go in. Got a first down. Were able to run out the clock. But it was fourth down, and the play call was basically just run around a little bit to run out the clock, throw it away. Well, the Houston quarterback, PJ Walker, took a knee with 2 seconds left in the game. Refs called the game as being over and ran off the field. All the players thought it was as well. But the commentators looked back and they could see right when PJ Walker's knee hits the ground, there's 2 seconds left. They go back up to the replay booth, and even the replay booth says, yes, we see there's 2 seconds there, but we're sticking with the end of the game call. Commentators said to them, listen, get the refs back out here. They just went back there. They're probably still dressed. We could get everybody back out here. Nope. We're sticking with the end of the game. So, hopefully, now if Seattle would have got that ball, most likely would not have scored, but they would have had to score a touchdown on one play, go for the 3-point conversion, which would have tied the ball game. Hopefully, playoff time comes, they don't miss the playoffs by 1 game, because this could have been the game. This could be the game that cost them a playoff spot. The next day, XFL releases a statement acknowledging that the game was stopped too soon, and that replay judge has been reassigned. Kudos for the XFL for stepping up and holding somebody responsible for it, compared to the NFL with some of these refs calls that they don't really hold them responsible. But I understand it's the first season. You know, there's going to be obviously some glitches throughout the year. Hopefully the XFL fixes them, especially, you know, the kickoff that happened against Seattle 2 weeks ago. where there was a personal foul on a touchdown, got assessed on the kickoff, which really actually hurt Seattle a little bit more because it was tougher to kick. So this week's game, we have the Roughnecks versus the Guardians on Saturday at 2 o'clock on ABC. The St. Louis Battlehawks versus Tampa Bay Vipers at 5 o'clock on Saturday. Dallas Renegades against the DC Defenders on Sunday at 4. And then the LA Wildcats versus my Seattle Dragons Sunday night, 7 o'clock. For my game of the week, I'm actually going to probably go with the Dallas Renegades and Defenders. Cardell Jones got benched after what they say is 9th interception in 5 games. You know, he started off the season good. I just don't know what all happened to him. I still think the Defenders are a better team than Dallas. Right now, Dallas is the favorite at 4.5 points. I actually think they'll cover that. I think they'll win by 7. But I'll tell you what, with my Seattle Dragons, they better get their heads out their ass, because I understand, you know, the Houston game was a lot closer than it should have been, and they probably should have pulled it off, but if you want to make the playoffs, you know, you only got a couple weeks left. Now's the time to make the push. You got to make the push and get going. So hopefully that happens for my Dragons. But that is going to be it for this week. Before we go, head over to Twitter. Follow us there at ST Sports Podcast. Follow our Facebook page, like and share that, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel. Head over to staytunedsports.net, where you can find all of our episodes from episode 1 all the way up to now. Any merchandise of ours you could purchase there as well. So until next week, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.